One particular year, I was especially excited to see Christmas roll around because I actually had a gift that I knew my wife would like. I haven't always been a good gift giver. You won't believe this, but when we first started back in high school dating, I thought that I would get her something practical. So I got her like an electric razor for her legs, I guess. So, and so I've moved up over the years. So it's hard, but one year I knew I nailed it because I was, I think she was in the room with our TV with a friend, and they were watching QVC. And I was on my computer, just, in the recliner or whatever, and doing some stuff. But I heard her say, "Oh, I like that ring." And I tuned into that, and she didn't know I was listening. So I peer over my laptop, and I type the number of the order number, whatever it is. And by the time that show was over and her friend left, I had already ordered it. And I was really excited, honestly, because I knew it wasn't an electric razor, and I knew that it was something that she would really want because she actually said it. And so Christmas was really cool that year for me. By that time, we didn't have kids in the house, and it wasn't, you didn't have that excitement. And just so I was thrilled to be able to give her what she wanted. Here's my question to you. When you come to worship on a Sunday morning, what would it be like if you actually came with that mindset that you were coming to give something to God instead of coming to get something from God? I would say that it would totally change the way that you and I think of worship and do worship, because we are so used to a consumer mentality that we come into church expecting it to be all about us. And that's just, I'm not criticizing you on that because I struggle with that myself, and I'm a minister, but we are so, life just, we see things so much from our point of view, and even in church, even in worship, we think that it's for us. And if God happens to get something out of it, great. But in reality, you and I should be coming to church every week thinking first of God and worshiping God for His greatness. And what happens then is that when we're in His presence and we bring a gift to God, He always blesses. Sometimes you might be like I've been before in the past, where you leave church and you start to rate worship, you start to rate the service, and you say, well, sermon was okay, but it was a little long, so I'll give it like a 7 today. And music was good, but it was a little loud, so I'll give it a 6 today. And I just didn't like exactly the way the order of the service hit me. But it was fine. It was pretty good. So I'll give it an 8. And we get into this rating system where we say, hey, how was worship? And we start to give our opinion. Like our opinion really matters. Because it's really about God, regardless of what we think. It's sort of like going to someone else's birthday party and complaining about the cake because you didn't like the kind of cake it was. When in reality, it was not made for you. It was made for the birthday person. And I'll admit, as a pastor, I've kind of fed into this before, because a lot of times pastors think, I want to give them first, I want to give them what they want so that they'll come back next week. We fall into that trap. I want to make sure that they like it so that they'll keep showing up. When in reality, worship is not about us. Again, make sure to understand this, that when we come worshiping God, we always get what we need. God blesses us, but not necessarily when we come selfishly expecting, like, I want exactly this kind of message, or I want the music to be this kind of style, or I'm not going to be happy. Listen, if you go home from church unhappy with the service, more than likely, as long as the Word of God was spoken, as long as the music, was scriptural based and all that, as long as that was happening, it may not have been perfect, but if you go home complaining about worship, it's more than likely because you weren't worshiping God. You were a consumer, and so it didn't quite meet your needs. In fact, again, I think pastors are guilty about this, so I'm not blaming you at all, but I want you to rethink this. Sometimes pastors and worship leaders will say, I want to give them what they'll like so that they're happy because I love them. But maybe the most loving thing that we could do is to say, you need to get over yourself. Because it's not about you. None of this is ultimately about us. We're put on this planet, we have life because there's a God who loves us, and it's all about Him. And we're just sort of renting space. We're just sort of blessed with what He gives us, but it ultimately is about Him. And the moment we make it about ourselves, we add stress to our life, and we're not nearly as happy in life as we should be. So probably the most loving thing I could do today is to say to us all, let's start to get over ourselves when we come to church, because it's not about us. I mean, when did we become so important?